Welcome back to Ensuring Success 2025. This is session 9 out of 14. Just as a brief reminder, if you're joining us for the first time in this session, I want to just give you a little bit of housekeeping information. First of all, if you're interested in interacting with our speakers, posting questions, sharing experiences, you can reach us here on the set by looking at the bottom of your screen where it says Ask a Question. Any information you post in there will reach us up here on the desk here in front of the cameras. If you have any technical difficulties and you need to talk to one of our technicians or have a question about CPE, you can contact our technical crew. At the top of the screen, there's an email address, info@ensuringsuccess.com, and also a number you can text to if you prefer to do that. So that would be for technical questions where you require an answer. Ensuring success would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. So I'd like to take a moment to just read off the names of our sponsors. They are ADP, Avalara, Canopy, CPA.com, Digits, eFile4Biz, Field Guide, Carbon, Count, WriteWorks, SafeSend, SureLink, ValueInsights.ai, Wolters Kluwer, and Xero. And we particularly want to thank CPA.com, who is the sponsor of this session. As for CPE and CE credit, just a quick reminder of how that works. We verify your attendance during the session by showing 3 codes at the bottom of the screen. Each code is a 3-digit code. So by the end of our session, we will have had 3 breaks. Each time you got a 3-digit code, 9 digits altogether. You want to write down those codes if you're planning on requesting CPE or CE credit. In order to make sure that you see those codes and are paying attention and watching the screen so you can write them down, you will hear this sound. So whenever you hear that, you know there's a code on the screen. You want to make sure you write it down. At the end of the day, or when you're ready to get your credit, your certificates, you'll go to the top of our screen where it says CPE/CE credit. When you open that screen, it'll ask for the email address that you used to register, and you'll enter it there. If you haven't registered yet and you're watching this, then you'll be required to register at that time before you can continue on to get your certificates. So once you've registered or entered your email, it'll take you to another screen that says Claim Your Credit. And when you click that button, and it's okay to click that button, even though if you were in our last session, you might be worried about clicking things. But it's okay to click that button. It will take you to the screen where we list all of the sessions, all 14 for the whole conference, and you will enter the codes for all of the sessions you attended. You can click the download button, and you'll download your CPE certificate right there on the spot. If you're requesting CE, you also need to click that download button, and that will register you in our system, and we'll get you, we'll dispatch your information to the IRS for CE credit. All right, so this is session 9, and it is AI and the next frontier of tax research, from compliance to competitive advantage. And the experts we have on our panel today include Brian Davis, Todd Cooper, Ellen Choi, and also my co-moderator, Alexandra DeFelice. So I'll let each of them introduce themselves to you real quickly. Brian, you can start.
Yes, thank you. I'm Brian Davis. I'm the CEO of One Stop CPA. We're a virtual tax advisory firm, small firm, team of 6. And mostly we work with medical professionals, doctors, dentists, dermatologists. And I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
My name is Todd Cooper. I'm the Director of Channels at CPA.com. My role is to work very closely with the entire technology ecosystem that has a massive impact on our profession, and to really drive the transformation of all of our categories forward. So thank you for having me today.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellen Choi. I am the CEO and founder of Edgefield Group. And my team, we help CPAs like you adopt and enable AI. Before that, I am a co-founder at iWin, which is an accounting technology company. And there, I was the chief product officer and the COO. So a lot of different things across accounting technology and how firms successfully adopt technology. Thanks for having me.
And I'm Alexandra DeFelice, Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer for JMBM Law Firm in Los Angeles, California, co-moderator for Ensuring Success and designated bell ringer.
All right, thanks everyone. So this session is about tax research in AI and where that's going. And you may have noticed that we've referenced AI in a lot of the sessions that we've had so far. And this isn't the last one where we'll be talking about it also. But this is a new direction. We haven't talked about AI and the increase of the use of AI in tax research, and hadn't really even thought about that. So what are you guys seeing? Where is it going? What's happening? What's going on? I'm going to start with you, Todd, because this was your idea.
Yeah, absolutely. It's perfect. So, we recognized here at CPA.com several years ago that AI was going to have, a massive impact on this profession. And I think we've all seen that. I think we're still in the early stages of this, so we're kind of going through the hype cycle. But the impact is it's not going to go away. So we're going to have to learn how to integrate this. And I think this is good timing based on the previous session that you just had with, Eric and David and Roman. So we're going to talk about how you're going to impact this into your daily life as an accountant. It's just going to be something that you're going to use consistently as we move forward as a part of this profession. And I think it's going to be a good thing. It's going to help us, be more connected to our clients. It's going to free us up time to be more of a trusted and strategic advisor. And I'm sure that we'll come across some of those points as we continue to go through this session today.
So how has AI come into the role of tax research? And I'm speaking from someone who started in the accounting profession more than a minute ago. And for me, tax research was going down the hallway to the library and pulling the books off the shelves where the pages were updated once a week, and flipping through and researching one thing at a time myself by going through the pages. And there was no search function or anything. It was it was hard work.
It's a funny story, so I'll tell you. I used to be the person that actually sold those to you, right? So we would come around and put the updated pages into the standard federal tax reporter, and then I conned you into going to CD-ROMs. You remember that? Which lasted a very short minute.
Right.
And I drove around with those in my truck for the longest time, too, delivering those to firms. But our world is just instantaneous right now. Like everything that we do, we expect an immediate response, whether it's communication, whether it's answers to questions. And that's really having an impact on, and I think it's having an impact across all different levels within the firm. So whether you're a managing partner that's been around for a while, like some of us have, or you're a young junior staff, I think it's having an impact. But Ellen, I think you could probably touch base on how you're seeing that change from the historical ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So historically, CPAs have had the prior days option of the physical books to CD-ROMs, but really right now, just really going through some of the bigger tax software platforms where you can search for information, but you have to know these very complex Boolean systems of actually getting the exact information that you need. And I think many people would probably agree that it's not necessarily the best, most intuitive, frictionless user experience in actually trying to digitally get the tax information. So, we were in that era, and then the internet came along, and now we have Google. So I think for many people, the default is to go to Google to search for tax research questions, which is very convenient, and it is frictionless. But the problem there is that there is a lot of information out there on the internet. Some of it is right, some of it is wrong, and it is hard to disambiguate between those things. So it really becomes up to the tax professional to understand what is right, what is inaccurate, which is a lot of time and work. So now we have this era of ChatGPT and large language models, and this technology enables us to take all this information, but be able to query it in a very intuitive, user-friendly way and get information that is specific, personalized, packaged, and more accurate if you do it right. So that's why I think tax research is such a great wedge for accountants to start using AI. It's really like ready-made. Like you just can't plan it any other way. So I think as an accounting firm, if you are in the very early innings of adopting AI, tax research is a great starting point, and that is very friendly, very useful, gives you immediate value right away.
I want to dig into that a little bit more. And because you said if you do it right? So
Yes.
you can find inaccurate. We've been mentioning AI like on every session as much as we can. I think we've done it in every session so far. And there's the fear because, like AI has those hallucinations or even just flat out incorrect citations. Like we've had that happen with law firms as well, right?
Yes.
So how do you know you're doing it right? And I think you said like you don't even have to buy anything. You can actually just try typing something in, but then how do you verify that it's correct?
Yes. So I think many of you may have heard of Perplexity. One of the reasons why Perplexity became popular early on is because unlike the other AI assistants, it was citing resources right up front for every single factual point. And mostly it was right, sometimes it was wrong, but the point was that there was an audit trail where you can click in and you can actually, as a human, verify for yourself that this is right or this is wrong. So I would actually start out with, you can actually have prompts that trigger to say like, please cite all the sources for everything that I am asking for. And then as a human, be able to go into it, click into it and verify it yourself. And at the end of the day, whoever is actually querying in those searches, the tax professionals, you are responsible for whatever comes out and whatever you're going to communicate. So you need to be doing those checks, but you can make it super easy. Like the tools will make it really easy for you to check those things.
Okay. I forgot to launch a poll at the beginning because I always like kind of take the pulse of the audience. Is that okay, Gail? Can we do it now or do you want to wait?
Yeah, let's do it now.
Okay. So I basically want to see how our audience feels about their tax research process as is. And then I also want to see in the same survey how familiar they are with using these tools for tax workflow.
Excellent.
So, Brian, what about, so for your research, this is always a weird position.
okay.
Like I can't quite see people and have someone next to me. But
okay.
for your research within your firm, like how did you introduce AI?
Well, I was one of the, I'm always looking for the latest and greatest technology so I could, buy back my time, have more time to give to clients, work on my firm. And I early on with AI, it was like, oh, this is cool. It could write emails for me, so I don't have to spend time there. It could write these little client, stories that I could update my meeting notes and do a recap. But once I, in the past couple of years, I've been also, the tax industry itself is going through a big change where a lot of us like firm owners are transitioning from doing a lot of compliance and tax prep and being buried in. We got to do a lot of that stuff. So we're, we only have 30 minutes for calls and, questions about research on, things like that. So it's definitely helped. We use a tool called BlueJay, which it lets you go in and it actually cites the sources and you can get verified research, So now it helps with that problem of, hey, I just got a quick question. Clients will always ask you a quick question, but it's like, that quick question, I'm not going to email you back a response because you're going to hold me to it.
Yeah.
If I give you something that, with the tax code, as I'm sure a lot of the professionals know, there's the rule, there's the exception, and then there's the exception to the exception.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to just say, yeah, you could do that because I was busy. So it's like now it's turning what used to be maybe a 5-hour research and reply, go to Google, try to read, is this article, when was this article written? I just spent 5 hours reading through this. And then with all the changes happening with the tax code, it's hard to keep up and be able to confidently, give that as a service. Like you can ask me questions and I could get you the answer, turn around pretty quick. So AI is definitely speeding that process up. Yeah.
Okay, we want to take a really quick break right here just to hear a word from our sponsor, CPA.com, and when we come back, we'll have the first code that you'll need to get CPE or CE credit for this session. So we'll be right back.
The future of tax research is here. Meet BlueJay, the preferred partner solution of CPA.com for tax research that delivers better tax answers instantly, saving you time so you can stay focused on creating the best possible client experience. Here's how it works. Get started by asking a tax question. We'll automatically retrieve the most relevant sources to craft a verifiable answer, complete with inline citations and source lists organized by authority, so you know exactly where your answers came from. Once your research is done, you can turn it into a high-quality draft client email or memo with the touch of a button, allowing you to go from question to answer to client communications in minutes. Ready to learn more? Visit bluejay.com.
Welcome back. Be sure to look at the bottom of your screen right now if you're planning on collecting CPE or CE credit for this session. You'll need to write down this code. Okay, that's the first of 3 codes that you'll get for this session to verify your participation here. So, Brian, you were talking about how you discovered doing automated tax research and how it's really freeing you up to do some of the things in your firm. Can you give us a little more history about what we were looking for when you chose BlueJay and how an automated tax research program like that actually works?
Yeah, so like many of us, we start off when I went out on my own in 2017. I was about 7 years working in an accounting firm, and I went out on my own. So I was, looking for clients. I was making all the mistakes. I was taking whoever wanted to come in and do a tax return. Hey, I'll take you. Mm-hmm. But over that time, of course, with all the latest and greatest stuff that's coming out, it's like you got to move toward advisory so that you can get the higher value engagements. So we all hear that all the time. So we're like, yeah, we're trying to go that direction. But it's like, well, clients are calling me for compliance work. It's like, how do I level myself up? And one of the big unlocks for me was when I found, that, with tax returns and when you're doing like accounting services, you're giving them a product. You're giving them a tax return to sign. You're giving them a report. Here's your financial report. For me, it didn't really click that, like, how do I deliver advisory? Is it a video call? Is it a phone call? And then once I started doing this, I had a couple of clients that I would do research for, but it was only reserved for like the 1 or 2 clients when I had downtime. It wasn't like, something that I could do during busy season. Mm-hmm. So when I found this tool, I started playing around with it with BlueJay, started testing it. I sold somebody on an advisory plan, but I said, well, maybe if I give them this research, we had our conversation. I looked at my meeting recap, and then I said, let me create a nice research memo that's very custom to their situation. And it came out, it looked really nice. Of course, I read it. I didn't just copy it and drop it right to the client chat, But what I saw was that the client reaction was just like, they were so happy to get that output. And in my head, I was like, oh man, this is a game changer. This took me like an hour. This didn't take me a whole lot. Like the old research that I was doing for those few VIPs was like, it was like I would spend a lot of time searching through the internet. So once I just saw that the speed, but the accuracy was also there, that's where it's like, okay, I need to lean into this. And it's helped me. It's a tool that you don't want to integrate a tool during tax season, but it was one that I was able to integrate like in January. And then it's helped me, sell advisory services while I was having all those compliance questions. So it's definitely a tool that, it's hard for us small firm owners to wrap our head around. How do we move from doing compliance to doing advisory? And if you think of it like this, it's like when you deliver a tax return, you're delivering a research memo, and that's what this tool helps you create. So. And
speaking of small firm owners, what's the size of your firm?
6 people firm, so it's a 6-person firm. Yeah, but we're all virtual. I'm out of Palm Beach, Florida, and yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you want to do the poll results?
Yeah, sure. So, and I'll remember to hide them for this. There was a problem the last time. If I forget to hide them, I should be able to end the results for everyone. But you can just click to hide the results if they block the CPE code moving forward. So let me show the results here. So it's a 3-part question, and the first question is how do you currently feel about your research process? And it's interesting because it's kind of all across the board. The highest number says they wish they had better tools, but then the next one right after that says it works fine, but it's slow. The next question is, how familiar are you with using AI tools in tax workflow? And most people, almost 50%, they said they haven't tried it yet, or that they're experimenting with BlueJay, ChatGPT, others, but they're just kind of like playing around with it so that they're not really comfortable. And then what is the most time-consuming part of tax research? by far, they said it's almost neck and neck, actually. It says identifying the right issue or angle, and then almost right under it is finding the authoritative sources. So again, that's pretty much what we thought. But how do you know, Brian, you said that, well, it used to take you like 5 hours or whatever, not every article has the date on it, right?
Right.
So how do you even know that AI's sources are the right sources?
Right. Well, that's the thing is, now these tools they're coming to you, like the recent passage of the OBBB. It's like, the day after it was loaded in there, you could actually ask questions. That's a totally different from in 2017 when that act came out. It was like, all right, we got to sign up for some CPE, we got to do some training, we got to see what this whole QBI thing is about. So it was great that I could reach out to my advisory clients and say, hey, the new tax bill is here, but don't worry, I've already kind of analyzed which parts are important to you. Let me know when you want to have a discussion about it, just a couple of topics, but just it gives you the confidence knowing that it's accurate. So of course, if you're not using a tool, you want to make sure that you're checking the citations and the sources where it's coming from, because nothing's worse than spending all weekend. I said 5 hours, but I would research it during the day, then I'd kind of think about it through the rest of the night. You're dreaming about this client situation, you don't want to give them bad advice, and then you're coming back to it and you're like, oh wait a minute, I'm reading an article about this changed in the past year. So that's why it's like now it's definitely a different time in the space where you can lean into advisory, because it's like I offer it first now, whereas I used to offer it kind of as like just a VIP add-on for just a handful of people.
It's interesting how fast it's changing, and I'm sure Ellen can probably add some context to this, but you said you're almost at a point where when there's a tax law change, it's almost instant impact analysis on your clients across your entire client database, which is now helping you be proactive in your communications with those clients. How far away, since I know you like to look into the future, how far away are we from really having that where it's almost fully automated? When there's a tax change, it can analyze your client database to understand, its immediate impact across your entire client base, formulate a communication to you that you can then review before you send it out. But how quickly you almost automate that process?
Yeah, so actually the interesting thing is the technology that exists today to stitch all of this together between the foundation models coming up from OpenAI's ChatGPT, like Google's Gemini. So that AI technology is there, that it's actually almost a commodity in my opinion, because all the developers, even all the vendors that we know in the space, they are most likely pulling from the foundation model technology from somebody else into their API. The bottleneck to having that instantaneous push model, right? Like proactive, like for us, be able to actually consume information at the right moment and be fed the information as new tax changes come out. A lot of the restrictions there, for example, if you want to have personalization by client, do you even have the right client data in the right structured form to be able to query up to get that accurate, personalized, right, like predictive insights? The answer is for many accounting firms, not today. I know many of them are working very proactively towards it, but a lot of it is you have to ensure that all parts of the process, which is the technology, the data, the underlying data, internal and external, and the technology systems that stitch it together can all work in concert together. So I think, to me, what I see is the data is really the sort of like the weakest link that many firms are working on today.
Makes sense.
So, Brian, I always like to ask about pricing.
Sure.
So if it used to take you 5 hours plus your dreaming time, how did you charge them for that? And has your pricing structure changed as a result of the efficiencies you've gained?
Oh, definitely. And that's one of the things, it's always this, like, being on my own, it's great that I can, make these decisions. One of the reasons why I went out on my own is because I could work with who I want to work with. I could charge what I want to charge, say no where you want to say no. So that's the thing is, I come from compliance only, even, jotting down your time, billing by the hour. And I got out of that when I left the firm. So I said, when I start my firm, I'm not going to bill by the hour. But I was still kind of doing a variation of that. I would just say like, well, this took me this amount of time. You know, how am I going to charge for it? But I've completely redesigned the way that I offer it, and that free time that I've got from you know, these efficiencies, I've used it on working on other areas of my business, making sure all my client data is in a easy way, so that when whether the technology is in front of me now or if it's something that I want to be ready for it. So it's like, you know, you do use that efficiency time to like fix those other areas of your business, you know, come up with better marketing, come up with better landing page, better pitch offers. You know, I've been working, you know, it's the reason I'm able to come out here is because I've had time, you know, gains from, you know, getting some of that work done. But one thing I don't do is, and I know a lot of us like to lean into this, is when you have that extra time, don't just go into like, oh, let's fill it back up with more compliance work. It's like now I'm actually searching for those clients that I really want with the services that I want to sell, and not just getting more time so I could replace it with the old work. So it's a constant redefinition going on.
When you or anyone is trying to choose a tax research platform, and there's several out there, and there are some that are specifically for tax research, but there are also all the generative AI programs and a lot of options. Does it make sense for someone to like come up with a problem they want to research and try several and see what kind of results they get, or how do you make the analysis of what you should acquire?
Well, funny enough, I'm in a couple of these communities of other nowadays. It's really great because there's so much sharing going on in the accountant space. You know, where even though you could think like they're your competition, it's like we're working together. So usually I lean in on other firm owners and see like somebody's used this before. Has anybody tried this out? You know, what's your feedback on it? What does it do? Because of course, you know, no offense to any of the software vendors, but it's like I kind of want to hear from somebody that's using it and actually could tell me, like they'll tell me if it's not going to do this or it looks like it's in the works. And I'm okay with certain features, but it's like if it doesn't do a certain thing, I want to hear it from somebody that has a firm that I want to, you know, aspire to. So I lean heavily into like the community aspect, any other accountants, and that's why I try to share what's working within my firm and where I've seen those unlocks. So.
Yeah, and I would just add, like in our work with firms, you can really think of them in two broad, like separate buckets. One is the horizontal AI assistant tools like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and the advantage of using them is that they are very cost effective. They usually have the most advanced foundation models. So like, because they are the ones that are developing all the frontier models. The drawback is that they're not accountant and tax specific. So you still need to really wade through and ensure with the higher rigor that the results that you're getting is accurate and the hallucinations. Advantage of using something like BlueJ, which is what Brian uses, which is a vertical specific AI tax research tool, is that they've already done the heavy lifting of vetting all the data, curating the right data, and not even just the data that is accessible on the internet, but like proprietary data that even OpenAI doesn't have access to, things like tax notes, because they have specific partnerships. So you pay for it, but you actually get more in terms of richer data set and also less hallucination, less accuracy, like because they have done the hard work for you upfront. So what we find is firm owners are just looking at that trade-off, and it is a personal decision, although I have heard of many more firms now moving on to BlueJ because the convenience and it's cost effective. So, but it's a decision that, you know, every firm owner I've seen them make.
So Todd, you're exposed to hundreds of firms, right? What do you see as the aha moment that makes them want to use AI for tax, and what is the barrier to entry?
Yeah, I think number one, the barrier to entry I'll start with is just they don't know what they don't know, right? So it's, do I get, where do I start? What's step number one? Do I go to the swimming pool and jump off of the high dive, or do I wade into the swimming pool? I think that, you need to start with experimentation. Like Ellen said, try a bunch of different things. But the aha moment, I think Brian alluded to it earlier, was how do I create the capacity to add higher value services to my client, right? Like if I want to get into that advisory space, what does that really mean? Because I think in our profession, the the value of something that you deliver is in the eye of the beholder. And I don't know if you've seen that, but I feel like clients are starting to say, not that there's not value in a tax return or a monthly financial statement or anything like that. We all know that there is, but they're expecting something more. It's the and what? And what, and now what, and now what? And they almost are asking practitioners to look through a crystal ball. You know, here's where my business is today. Here's where I want it to be 5 years from now. You tell me everything that I need to know to get to that endpoint 5 years from now. So the only way to do that is to add those higher value, you know, trusted advisor advisory services. And if you're still working on, and I love the way that you phrased it, you know, if you're still working on, you know, replacing the time work that I did for compliance with other time work that I'm going to do for more compliance, we need to have a bigger conversation because that's not where the profession is headed. So I think that's the aha moment is now I can actually spend that time with my clients and do those higher value services.
And one thing that I would just piggyback on that, you know, when I used to get ready, and that's such a good thing because we put our blood, sweat, and tears into these PDF tax returns, and it's like they don't even read through it. It's like, did you see that nice schedule? There's no misspells. Clients don't, you know, what I've seen is they of course they care about it when they got to send that return to their lender or when they got to send it to, you know, for whatever reason, but. You know, I used to prepare. So I didn't know what the advisory world would look like. I said, how do I prepare for this meeting? Do I need to, you know, this, that? And really it is you're showing up to that meeting with an open mind to how you can serve the client. You're listening to them. So I don't want to, you know, with like when people are thinking, do I do ChatGPT or do I go with one of these tools? It's like, I remember, you know, when I was younger, my mom bought us or somebody gifted us the encyclopedia. So we had a big bookshelf with like these 20, 30 books, and it's like, you know, you'd have to go and find it.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
still have that.
Oh yeah, the Britannica. It's like so. When you go to ChatGPT, that's kind of like how I look at the encyclopedia. But when I'm showing up to a tax strategy session with a client, I don't want to show up with the big encyclopedia. I want to have the book on tax strategy only. And that's what something like BlueJay is like to me. It's like having just what you need to support them.
Well, and you talked about the community that you're a part of. When you're asking a question, you know, you're trying to find an answer to something, you have to know that somebody else out there in this entire profession that we are in is probably dealing with the same problem. So when you feed this information into those large language models, you know, they start to learn on their own, right? The different types of questions. You know, maybe you asked it one way, but, you know, you're in Florida and there's somebody in California that may have had the same issue, but they asked a question slightly different. So these machines are learning over time, and the more that we use them, scary or not, the smarter they're going to become. And I'm sure you see that a lot with, you know, some of the vendors that are out there.
Absolutely.
Let's take one quick break. We're not going anywhere for a commercial this time, but we just want to display this second CPE code on your screen. Okay, so be sure to write this one down if you're planning on collecting CPE or CE credit for this session.
Can I create some controversy that just came in as a question?
Let's do it.
Everything has advantages and disadvantages. You all are talking about the bright side of AI, but what are the drawbacks you personally face using AI, or like we like to call them, horror stories, or you know, AI in general? It doesn't have to just be for tax research, but starting with that. I'll go with you first, Brian.
Sure. So, of course, we're not leaning, you know, like with my firm, of course, I'm very, you know, leaning into it and using it. But you always want to remember, you're the advisor. You do still have that expertise. You're the professional. So I think of it like this. Like if you had a employee or a senior that was, you know, that could get you the work from 0 to 80%, 85%, that would be like your best employee. They would get raises every year, promotions. AI could get you maybe to like 95%, 99%, but you still are the, you know, human in the loop. So you still have to put that piece on there. And that's the good thing I like about the tools, putting it in the hands of the accountant so we know how to deploy it to the client. Not, you know, my clients aren't using BlueJay. They're coming to me and they don't even know if I'm using BlueJay. They're just after the information. So it's not that because we're getting, you know, efficiencies that, you know, there's a, now we're going to be replaced, and now, the clients, and that's the thing that kind of scares me about the next generation. I know that, the new accountants are like in college right now, they're using ChatGPT in college. I didn't have that, when I was in college. So it's not that once the feedback comes out, you're just copying and pasting that. You have to still read it, make sure that it's something that you want to put your name on. So that even if it's just 1% or 5%, like that's where you'll get better at it. So it's still putting you in the loop. Yeah.
So now I'm going to bring more controversy,
Sure.
Ellen. So we were talking last night about how there's been this theme of AI isn't going to replace people. People who use AI will replace people who don't. And Ellen was very, very disagreeing adamantly, potentially with some curse words about this. So what do you think, Ellen?
Well, we're being broadcasted, so I will not say those curse words on live. Yes, so I believe one of the themes that we have heard consistently today and yesterday is this idea. What I really dislike about it is there is this complacency, kind of vibe, honestly, that comes with that statement, which is just this idea is that, if I just start using AI, if I just pick it up, if I learn it, then I am safe. But that's actually really not true. I really do think AI will replace some accountants even using AI, because it really depends on the role. If you are an excellent bookkeeper, that's great. That would have been great job security 10 years ago. If you are an excellent bookkeeper using amazing AI, then you're probably still going to be replaced by agentic AI in 5-10 years, whatever it may be. So you need to go into advisory, you need to go into higher value work, you need to teach yourself new skills, right? So it actually becomes much greater than teaching AI enablement, and that is just table stakes today, in my opinion, right? Lots of firms, accountants and firms that we work with, yes, absolutely, that's where you start, but it definitely doesn't end there. You will still be replaced if that's all you do. You have to learn those skills of being able to price correctly, value-based price, advisory, moving away from compliance. And that is a lot of hard work that I think sometimes we as a profession downplay, in terms of progressing on AI.
Todd, what do you think?
Well, I think just to answer the question about the horror story, because and what is the bad side? But if you think about that, let's go back to the days when we were talking earlier of using the standard federal tax reporter. If you take the professional responsibility out of this, even if you were using the standard federal tax reporter on paper back in the day, and you just trusted that a 2-year junior staff person did all the research, and then you just didn't even look at it and you sent it off to the client, that's a mistake. So even if you're using AI, your professional judgment is still the last and final stop on this. So where those mistakes come in is you just assume, without looking at it and using your that last mile of your professional judgment, that you're going over the accuracy of everything that goes out before a client. Those mistakes happened 30 years ago. They can happen now, regardless of the technology that you're using to get it to that last mile. So it's still our responsibility to do that.
So what are some tips for how to authenticate what you've seen? How do you protect yourself when you're doing your research through one of these tools before you turn it over to your client? What should we all be doing?
Yeah, Brian, you can probably touch on what you do.
What I do, is documenting, when I first started my firm, like I said, I used to run my firm on a spreadsheet. I used to not, have documented. It was all me. It was all in here.
By spreadsheet, you mean something like Excel as opposed to the green ledger sheets that we used to use?
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Not going
at
that
least
far.
ahead of that. Yeah. But, it started with, when I started to see the biggest efficiency gains in my firm were not just from when AI come. It's years back is when I started using workflow management software. Of course, I don't like the time bill and hour, keep track of my time, but I do like to see the workflow and what I'm doing and being able to document it so that you can hire, being able to hire and get people to help you. It's if it's all in your head or in that master spreadsheet that only you get. So just like with AI, with bookkeeping, if you're trying to do a CAS or if you're trying to do, you want to document your workflow. So things that I'm using, we were talking about how I use, I'll use BlueJ for the research, but then when I'm trying to do presentation materials or if I want to do an infographic, I'll use Gemini. So it's like you got to design what your firm's workflow is around this thing, and where does AI, how are you making sure that it's quality? Because just like in a tax return process, there's the way that my firm does it, there's the way the other firms do it. You want to make sure that you're documenting, having a clean audit trail, because exactly, we don't want to send out I heard the story. Did you guys hear about the law firm or the lawyer that presented a citation, and the judge was like,
Yes.
this is not a real case.
Right.
I don't want to be that accountant.
Right. And I think to piggyback on that, and actually to answer both of your questions, we talk a lot about accuracy and hallucinations, and that's an obvious dark side of AI in the sense that you really have to watch out for it. What I am seeing firms and accountants kind of like a rising sort of concern and topic of conversation is actually the quality of the work itself. So basically, AI is making all of us lazier. I think that is the premise, which I think we could probably all, intuitively empathize with. So the question is, how do you actually teach the junior people, or how do you hold yourself to the same high standard and the rigor of judgment and the rigor of the work product, which is a little bit different than accuracy, because something can be very accurate but very mediocre, right? So there's a lot of conversation that are starting to happen around this topic. And on that front, I do think it comes back to a very targeted apprenticeship model. So like Brian working with a junior person, he still needs to teach that person great judgment. They're not going to learn that on their own. They can produce a very technically competent, analyses on tax research, but to get to the next level. So that sort of mentorship is still really critical, that human to human interaction and learning. And I do think there was actually an article that came out on Harvard Business Review and on the topic of work slop, which is this idea.
I saw that.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah. It made the rounds, at least in my circles. I think it just really hit a nerve, which is this idea that 20% of all the AI-produced results are considered work slop, which is mediocre results that somebody else now has to spend a lot more time on to clean up, right? So it's
What is it
actually
called? Work
slop.
Work
Work
slop.
slop. Like slop at work, right?
Slop.
Okay.
Slop.
Right.
When they slop the food on
sloppy
there.
Joes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sloppy Joes, sloppy, right? Yeah, so it's this idea that you feel like you're more productive using AI, but it's actually extremely unproductive for the entire organization. So that's another dark side of AI, right? Actually making it productive for you, using it to that same rigor. And it's we're fighting human nature, because sometimes you see these results and it's it looks really good.
Yeah,
but
Alex, I'll take that.
yeah, right. But
yeah.
it's not,
No, and one of the points in that article is that you really, when you use an AI tool to do a job that previously you would have had a person do,
Right.
you need to treat that tool like an intern or a staff person in your company,
Right.
and review it the same way you would
Yes.
if a real person had done it.
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay, let's take a quick break right now. We want to hear another word from our sponsor, CPA.com, and then we'll be back with your final CPE/CE code for this session.
Wherever you are on your CAS journey, CPA.com is here to guide you every step of the way. CPA.com's CAS professional services provide you with the resources and guidance you need to drive transformation and shape the future of your firm. Power up your practice with coaching, consulting, workshops, and proven resources. Prepare your firm for future success with CPA.com's CAS professional services. Learn more at CPA.com/CAS2.
We're back. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the third CPE code for this session. If you're planning on, thank you. If you're planning on claiming CPE or CE credit for this session, you'll want to write down that code, combine it with the other two you've got, and I don't mean add them all up. I know you're accountants and you want to do that, but combine the list of all the numbers, and then you'll eventually go to the CPE/CE option at the top of our screen, and that's where you'll be able to claim your certificates. So as we're kind of finalizing things and wrapping things up, we want to talk a little bit about how using AI and bringing it into your firm to do tax research is changing the responsibility of management and the processes for training staff, new staff, and the ability to not get so excited and say, I did this in 30 seconds, here's the answer. But how do we work around all those things?
I think it's just like bringing any new technology into your firm. Change management is a huge aspect. Any time that you introduce a new piece of technology into the overall work product of your firm and how you produce those things, you have to take this just as seriously. So there needs to be structure around it. There needs to be training around it. You need to have an acceptable use policy around it. There's all of those things that we normally do anytime you introduce a new piece of technology. I think this doesn't change. It's the same exact process.
I just want to add that actually CPA.com published a really excellent report on this topic earlier this year, and there was a whole change management section to it where there were best practices on change management of specifically using tax research, AI-powered tax research tool for firms. And absolutely to add to Todd's point, it's not just about throwing a tool to somebody. That never works. You need to have the right conversational framing, what are their concerns? Like, are they afraid? What can they put in? All the way to kind of that support of the actual training itself. So there's a lot of different foundational pieces that go into making something like this really successful for the team.
And with us small firm owners, that's where I speak from. I know that I lean into these resources that are being put out there because, nowadays we all have different firms. My firm could be in a different niche, it could be in a different area, a different style. So it's like you have to take all the information that they're putting out there and apply it to what you're already doing. So it's like avoiding that shiny object syndrome. Like, hey, I heard about this. If it works, I'm going to lean into it. It's like, you also want to kind of see like what are your firm's policies already around this? What is your game plan for growth? Are you trying to do level up to advisory, and then how does it support that? So finding that out before you just start dropping in tools, maybe see where it would fit into your firm's outlook. There's a lot of new tools, a lot of new features, and they're always like leapfrogging each other. So it's like, I don't want to just jump on this one because it's good now and then the other one might get better. It's like, what is my practice management system doing? What are they doing about this? Should I wait around for them to add this feature? So, definitely leaning into that. That's changed my role as a firm owner. I'm doing that, and I'm doing that work so that I could lead the team, in the right direction. So.
And how can we make this stick? Because like you said, your clients probably aren't going to go out and buy a tool like BlueJay, but they certainly have access to Google searches and ChatGPT and various other online sources that may even be free and that might provide the same research, honestly, results that you're finding. So how do we make sure that we still have that role as the tax researchers?
Well, I do run into that a lot where clients will say like, hey, I asked ChatGPT and it told me this. And then it's like, you do see the difference. If you're a professional, you're an advisor, your client's situation could be, if they're not plugging in the specifics. So
in the nuances.
Yeah. So I like to do, I don't necessarily always upload my clients, full profile, their personal information. I like to do profile information. So, what's their filing status? What's their goal? Are they, closer to retirement? Are they risk averse? And, are they trying to get a $0 tax bill, or are they just trying to get out of the top tax bracket into a lower bracket? Like, those are the different parameters that the client's not going to plug that in. So that's why I say like having a documented workflow for how my firm does tax advisory. They know the difference between. They tell me, they're like, hey, I checked it out, but of course I want to run it by you because they do trust you, and you just gotta be confident that even though they're looking at stuff, it's great. Doctors I deal with a lot of doctors, so they've been dealing with WebMD. I've done it myself.
We talked about that yesterday.
Say, hey, I looked it up. I think that it's this thing, but it's like you don't know for sure. They know. They went. So that's kind of like how we have to come from that position of confidence. Like we know we're the professional, and even if that is accurate, they're still looking for you to say like, yeah, they were right. So.
Well, it also could increase the revenue for doctors if everybody's now a hypochondriac because they go to WebMD and think I have this, and they immediately call their doctor, so they're reaching that copay much. But maybe that transfers to the tax side as well too. Start booking the time with you.
Yeah. It's like all the commercials on TV too. If you have this, which is some 6
doesn't apply.
syllable word that you've never heard of,
Right.
go to your doctor. You need to get this medicine.
So we were talking earlier about experimenting. and it came up yesterday about like creating this culture of play. Todd, what would you advise them? What's okay to experiment with and what's not okay to experiment with?
First of all, I would, we make sure that we have an acceptable use policy. You've checked with your firm's insurance company and those things. But my suggestion is to, whatever the size of your firm is, if you're a sole practitioner, you're a small firm, a mid-sized firm, there is somebody within your firm that is really good at, exploring new technology. They have a mind for it. They want to look forward to, what's coming next, and just find that one person that can do that and look through some of these things and then give that feedback to firm leadership or whoever it may be. Because there's always somebody within there. It sounds like you were the person for your own firm to do that. But just find that creative person that likes to look at what's coming down the pipeline and feed a lot of this through them, instead of just saying, everybody go out and download whatever you want and use it. That's not what we want. To have a controlled environment, but there's usually somebody in a firm that is good at that.
We have a couple questions from the audience. Somebody's asking, do we know, are colleges starting to teach tax research using AI tools? Any idea?
Whether they are teaching them or not, I can assure you that folks are using them.
Yeah. I was feeling out a few people about it yesterday, and they said that they don't think they're teaching it yet, but they, like, the students are trying to use it themselves. I mean, that might be a great opportunity, right? I think everyone is still learning. It's so much faster. Like, of all going through from paper to now, this all these different technology adoptions. Todd, are you seeing this be more rapid than anything else? Like, move to the cloud, scary. Yeah.
I've been doing this for 26 years, and there have been more entrants into the technology ecosystem that are attached to our profession in the last probably 5 to 7 years than all of the 20 plus prior. At least how I feel that in my career. So there's a lot of things that are, and it's good, right? That shows that this is a stable, look, people don't invest money into something that is not stable. So that shows you that this profession is not going anywhere. We are always going to be here, and whether it's AI, if we're here 10 years from now, maybe we're still sitting at this desk 10 years from now, it may be something even different that we're talking about than AI. So it's always going to continue to invest in the profession.
We have an opportunity, Todd, for you to make a shameless plug. Somebody has asked if you can provide information about where you would go in the CPA.com website or in your community to get more CAS training.
Absolutely. So you can go to CPA.com and then just do /CAS, or you can look for client advisory services. Once you go to CPA.com, there's practice areas right across the top. You'll have tax, audit, and client advisory services, so it's very easy to find.
Okay. All right, well, we want to thank CPA.com very much for sponsoring this session, and our panel. You guys were amazing. Thanks for sharing all of your insights and experiences with us. We will be back at the top of the hour with our next session. We're continuing down this AI path, in case you hadn't noticed. The next session is called AI in Action, what it can and perhaps more particularly what it can't do for your firm. So we will see you then. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander.
Thank you.